it not for the fact that Aisha asked him and prodded him, he wouldn't have said, the worst day that ever happened to me was Taif. He wouldn't have said this. A Muslim is not somebody who whines. A Muslim doesn't whine for sympathy. A Muslim doesn't victimize, oh, how poor we are. And this is an attitude, especially in the American Muslim community, we need to get over it. The Muslim is not a victimizer, always putting the victim card out. It's not of the characteristics of having izzah for yourself. The Prophet suffered worse than us, and he didn't grovel for the sympathy, even of those who looked up to him and respected him, much less those who opposed him. So we need to learn our lesson from here as well. Our izzah comes from Allah, not from groveling in front of others. And so, just because Aisha asked him, he opened up a little bit, and he said, yes, this was the worst day. Had his wife not asked him, he would never have opened up and even said this. Ibn Ishaq provides us many more details. And the story is well known to you. This is one of the most famous stories of the seerah. We hear it when we are children. And it is a very well known and authenticated story that the Prophet ﷺ walked to Taif, which would take at least a day and a half or 2 days. And he presented himself to the leaders of Taif. And there were 3 brothers, Abd Yalil and Mas'ud and Habib, the sons of Amr. Their father Amr had been the chieftain. When their father died, they made a strange treaty amongst themselves. And they said, we're not going to have any type of fighting. All of us shall rule simultaneously. All 3 brothers, we will have a shura, if you like, amongst us, and we will be the chieftains of the tribe of Thaqif. Of course, the tribe, I forgot to mention, Taif was the tribe of Thaqif. Mecca is the tribe of Quraysh. Quraysh and Thaqif were the ones that are always in rivalry. Quraysh and Thaqif. So the leaders of Thaqif are these 3 brothers all together. So, and one of them, as we said, had married a distant aunt of the Prophet ﷺ. So there's also a blood relation there. So the Prophet ﷺ sets up a meeting, tells them that he's in the town, he needs to talk to them. And so he presents himself to the 3 of them. And he presents the message of Islam and asks them to convert to this message. But all 3 of them rejected, and they rejected in the utmost sarcastic manner. One of them said that if Allah has sent you as a prophet, I might as well tear down the curtains of the Kaaba, meaning in animosity and remorse. If Allah has chosen you, I might as well tear down the curtains of the Kaaba. It's mockery. The second one said, A'udhu Billah. The second one said, has Allah not found anyone better than you? Has Allah not found anyone better than you? And the third one said, I cannot speak to you. Because if you really are a prophet, then you're too holy for me. And if you are, A'udhu Billah, a liar, then you are too beneath my dignity that I respond to you. So all 3 of them mocked him with the utmost mockery. And the Prophet ﷺ stood up to leave and said, very well, if you have rejected my message, then at least do not tell the Quraysh of my visit. Notice here, even to the end, the Prophet ﷺ is tying his camel. There's a plan. Don't go and tell them I have come, or else it will make life even more difficult. And it appears that they gave him this request, and that the Quraysh did not hear about this immediately. So they gave him this. And this shows us as well, that very well, okay, if you're going to reject me in this manner, the least that I ask you is, do not tell the Quraysh. Once again, it's a matter of sensibility, plotting. It's a matter of having a vision and a plan. And if this is our Prophet ﷺ having such a plan, making sure that he didn't just say, okay, I'm going to put my trust in Allah. Putting your trust in Allah comes after you have a plan, after you have a vision. You do what you can, and then you put your trust in Allah. And so he asked them, do not tell the others of my visit. Now, according to the more authentic reports, he didn't just leave Taif right then and there. Rather, he stayed there for around a week. He stayed there for around a week, trying to give, if the leaders rejected him, maybe some of the individuals would accept him. So he preached there for a week, and we have authentic reports of some of the later Muslims recalling from Taif, later converts recalling, I remember the Prophet ﷺ preaching in Taif, in the suq, in the marketplace, and nobody responded to his call, i.e. nobody converted to Islam. And in one such incident, when somebody might appear to have converted, this is what sparked the mob. The way that many of us know the story is that right after this he walked out of the city. What appears to be the case, Ibn Ishaq says he stayed in Taif for many days. And in another report, he basically stayed around 6 or 7 days. So even after the leaders rejected him, he stayed in the city approaching the laymen. Right? And this is again a sign of wisdom. You approach those with power, with money, with status. You approach the politicians, the noblemen, but you don't ignore the masses. Right? And we have said this many times before, that indeed to reject the lowly people is un-Islamic. But the concentration always begins with the people on top, with the people who have the clout. It's human nature that when somebody rich and famous converts, when somebody who's a powerful person converts, the masses follow. It's human nature. So we as Muslims as well, we look to those who are indeed the ones who are looked up to. And we give more emphasis to them. It is not un-Islamic to give more emphasis to them. It is un-Islamic to ignore the common folk if they come to you. عَبَسَ وَتَوَلَّى أَنْ جَاءَهُ الْأَعْمَى. That would become un-Islamic. But to emphasize the leadership, this is Islamic completely. And that's what the Prophet said. The first step, go to the leaders. They rejected, go to the masses. And he stayed there. And then, from what we gather, and again, there's only, the reason why we have so few reports is the only Muslim that was with him was Zayd. And Zayd, of course, dies in the Battle of Mu'tah. Zayd does not live after the Prophet to tell us these stories. He might have told somebody a little bit. And so we have little bit of pieces here and there. We don't have the full story. What we can glean is that there was a potential of some people converting. Obviously the da'wah is going to, it's inevitable. You preach the truth, somebody's going to come. So there was a potential of some people converting. And that was when the leaders of Taif panicked. That was when they panicked and they sent the mob against the Prophet ﷺ. They gathered together, the riffraff, the ruffians, they gathered together, the people who have nothing better to do. And they told these people to go and stone this man out of the city. Kick him out of the city so that he stops doing this preaching. And so here is when the story that we are all familiar with, that they came and they pelted him with stones, and Zayd ibn Haritha radiallahu ta'ala an tried his best to protect him. He himself was injured from head to toe. But how much can you protect when the both are running? And this was when the Prophet ﷺ bled and his sandals were soaked with blood, and there is no protection from an entire mob that is pelting them, until finally they let him out of the city. And that was when, as he's walking out of the city, he said, I didn't realize until I'm in Qarn al-Manazil. This period he's talking about. I didn't understand where I was. I don't have too many memories until I'm at Qarn al-Manazil. So for 7-8 miles or kilometers, he is in what we would call a state of shock. And obviously, what else would happen in this state? Right? And he doesn't understand where he is until he reaches Qarn al-Manazil. And that is where we learn of the famous story as well, that the Prophet ﷺ, he saw some shelter, he saw some shade. He sat under a tree that was next to a garden wall. It was a wall that was the garden. And he did not know that this garden belonged to Utbah ibn Abi Shaybah. That was a distant, basically his father's second cousin. And pause here, many of the Quraysh had gardens outside of Taif, because Taif is a very beautiful city. Taif has luscious trees. The climate of Taif is almost unheard of in Arabia. Only 2 or 3 places have a climate like Taif, and the greenery of Taif. And to this day, Taif is a desert resort. In the middle of the desert, there is a resort in the middle of the mountains. It's lush, it's green, different trees and shrubs grow there, because the climate is very different. And there's plenty of water, because rain falls copiously on the mountaintops. And the soil is different, so you have different fruits and vegetation in Taif. In Taif you have, for example, grapes, and you have other fruits that you don't have in the city of Mecca or Yathrib or other places. So many of the people of the Quraysh had small little plots of land, their summer resort if you like, and of them was Utbah and his brother, the sons of Shaybah. And he was where the Prophet ﷺ sat down, and he said that famous dua which is mentioned in the Sirat of Ibn Ishaq. And this dua, as one of the scholars of our time says, that it doesn't need to have any isnad. The wordings of it, you know from the wordings that this dua comes from the heart of a prophet. Because the fact of the matter is, this dua does not have an isnad. Ibn Ishaq narrates it. It's not in Bukhari, it's not in Muslim. Ibn Ishaq narrates it, and there's some missing links in it. But the dua is simply so perfect and so moving that, as one of our modern scholars said, it doesn't need an isnad. The content is authentic enough to tell us that this comes from the heart of a prophet. And this dua is one that we should all ponder over and even memorize. Allahumma inni ashku ilayka ضعف quwwati. Oh Allah, to you I complain of my weakness and strength. I don't have strength, my weakness. وَهَوَانِي عَلَى النَّاسِ, and my helplessness and lowliness before men. Oh Allah, to you I complain of my weakness and my lowliness before men. أنت أرحم الراحمين وأنت رب المستضعفين وأنت ربي. You are the most merciful of all those who have mercy, and you are the Lord of those who are humble, and you are my Lord. إِلَى مَنْ تَكِلُنِي, to whom do you leave me with, O Allah? Who else can I go to other than you? إِلَى بَعِيدٍ يَتَجَهَّمُنِي, to somebody who's a stranger, who is going to treat me harshly. أَمْ إِلَى قَرِيبٍ مَلَّكْتَهُ أَمْرِي, or to a close relative whom you have given power over me, i.e. Abu Lahab. Who are you going to leave me with? A stranger, like these people of Taif, who will treat me so harshly, or a close relative who you have given ultimate power over me. إِن لَمْ تَكُنْ غَضْبَانَ عَلَيَّ فَلَا أُبَالِي, as long as you're not angry with me, then I don't care. غَيْرَ أَنَّ عَافِيَتَكَ أَوْسَعُ لِي, except for the fact that your protection from tribulation, your ease and comfort, this is more easy for me. غَيْرَ أَنَّ عَافِيَتَكَ أَوْسَعُ لِي, your ease is easier for me. Allahumma inni a'udhu biwajhik, O Allah, I seek refuge in your face. الَّذِي أَشْرَقَتْ لَهُ الظُّلُمَاتِ وَصَلُحَ عَلَيْهِ أَمْرُ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. Your face, that is the source of all of the light of that releases, or that gets rid of the darkness, and because of which all of the affairs of this world and the next are rightly guided. أَنْ يَنْزِلَ بِي غَضَبُكَ أَوْ يَحِلَّ بِي سَخَطُكَ. I seek refuge in your face, that your anger comes down upon me, or your wrath envelopes me. لَكَ الْعُتْبَى حَتَّى تَرْضَى. It is your right to criticize until you are content. You have the right to criticize until you are content. وَلَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِكَ. And there is no power or change except with you and through you. And this dua is really one of the gems of the seerah that deserves its own long commentary, and we'll summarize some bits of it here. That this dua, think about it from beginning to end. That the Prophet ﷺ is saying that, O Allah,